So this is something that's really, really troubling that's come out of this. It's actually come out of the Irish Parliament, I believe, very recently. And they're basically now hinting at going full communist, it seems. So in Ireland at the moment, something that come up in their parliament recently was a discussion around compulsory purchase order bills and what these bills are supposedly meant to do. And hearing the legislators talking about them, it really, really doesn't sound good. They're designed to make it easier for the state to seize private property. Now, again, that is full, Leninist, Stalinist, communist takeover talk we're talking now, right? So this is from Michael O'Keefe on X. This is from the Irish Parliament, I believe. Very, very scary stuff. And this is the thing, although we have a lot of conflict, especially like nationalist communities from Ireland versus, Great Britain and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a lot of conflict in these isles going back over that time. I certainly think that in topics like this, in conversations like this, where we're talking about state overreaching, where we're talking about the hijacking of causes like a so-called Palestinian resistance versus or coinciding that with Irish nationalism, being like we're all in the same fight, when the two things couldn't be any different. The pro-Pal people, I think, are in many ways trying to colonize Ireland the same way that the government is trying to hand over Ireland to them in order to expand the welfare state, expand the state capacity to enforce these things, right? So now we're seeing the Irish government, very, very scary for the Irish people, and now seemingly moving straight into full-on seizing of private property. And I'd be very, very concerned if you're a citizen living in Ireland at the moment. And I think there's only going to be a matter of time before these ideas are floated in countries in the UK as well, if they haven't been done so already. Be a clip on screen coming for you in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, clip should be working. Coming on screen now.
Bill for introduction, compulsory purchase order bill 2025. First stage, I call on Deputy James Geoghegan to move for leave to introduce the bill. Deputy, 5 minutes.
I move.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken Corla. Today I bring the Compulsory Purchase Order Bill 2025 before the House. This piece of legislation will overhaul a fundamental part of our land and planning system, the compulsory acquisition of property. CPOs are integral to the economic development of the country. If the state cannot acquire land in a transparent, timely and cost-effective way, we will not build the infrastructure we need. Without this infrastructure, our economic development will come to a halt.
Just realized something. Those are words that you can use to describe what happened in Russia in the early 1900s, for example. What was the words he said? Cheap, timely, and cost-effective. Were those the three words that he used? Let me quickly check this out. So he said, in a transparent, timely, and cost-effective way. That was the words that he used. So just rewatch that little bit of the clip, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll put it back up on screen for you to see the rest of it in a minute. Now, there's one thing that you can say about the communists in Russia. For example, they were very transparent in what they were doing. They did not give a fuck about upsetting people, right? And you now seeing those echoing through the Irish Parliament. You could literally just replace this. If you replaced this guy with the very weird shaped hairline, it has to be said, very odd shaped hairline. Looks like kind of like a Nike tick on his forehead. But again, you could very easily replace this. If you just said this in Russian, you'd think this is probably coming out of Vladimir Lenin's mouth in 1917, right? So this is very, very scary. Very, very scary. It just shows how much they're planning on ramping it up. And especially when you consider how much Ireland has had to deal with. It's very, very sad how much Ireland has had to deal with in terms of the people that the government have, brought over without the Irish people's consent. How now many customs in Ireland are simply not Irish anymore. You see daily incidents of migrants, of foreigners, in parks, like we see in the UK. It's the exact same thing in Ireland. You see them in parks harassing kids. Allegedly, what's going to be going on in the UK down in in Norwich, I believe it is, outside one of the hotels in Norwich, I think it is. There's a demonstration going on there Saturday because a migrant allegedly who's residing in this hotel forced a 15-year-old girl to use her hand to satisfy him. You know, so again, I'm trying to be thingy with my words at the moment. So when I start saying these things, I start getting very angry. But yeah, Ireland is in very, very dire straits at the moment. And this is just showing, it should be clear now the direction that all our governments are going in. It should be clear the direction that the Labour government is going in, and the Labour Plaid coalition is going to be coming in this country is going in. And I'm no reform supporter, for example, but the Labour and Plaid are extremists to the same degree that we are seeing here. Make no mistake about it. Like I said, imagine this, right? We've just said something come up on GB Politics X page, and it said some of the Afghans that are coming in on this scheme now, this resettlement scheme, are prone to radicalization, possibly a danger because of radicalization. I tweeted it, and I said, you don't say, right? But already, think of the cost for that, right? So about 150, we're now looking at more about 200k, right? Afghans coming in, and the costs that have been floated about and stuff like that. I'm going to bring my webcam back a little bit closer because it seems to be popping in and out of focus a lot. There we go. I know I'm out of focus now. Come on. There we are. It's better. So already I think I've seen figures floating about it's going to cost us about £7 billion, right? Now think about this. Plaid are floating the idea of bringing all 1.5 million refugees, quote unquote, from Gaza. Not only some of the most radicalized people on the planet, you know, but think of how much that is going to cost. We will not be able to support that, but that's what our government wants, and they will seize our homes in order to do it. They will seize our homes in order to do it. That's exactly what you're seeing in Ireland right now, in this transparent, cost-effective and timely manner that they want to steal your homes and steal your communities that generations of Irish people, generations of English people, generations of Welsh people, generations of Scottish people, our ancestors spent building, and now our government wants to take it all away, and we can't allow that to happen.
We will not build the infrastructure we need. Without this infrastructure, our economic development will come to a halt. A well-functioning CPO system is also essential if we are to meaningfully tackle the housing crisis and end dereliction. These are problems that affect us here in Dublin, but also people in towns and villages right across the country. It should also be put on the record here that the compulsory acquisition of land is a sensitive issue. It's not always pleasant when people are moved involuntarily from their homes or are required to sell their land. Although we need a streamlined and cost-effective CPO system, these landowners are entitled to clarity, transparency and fairness. I believe this bill provides that and strikes the balance needed to make CPOs work.
Yes, compulsory acquisition of things that don't belong to you is fair, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, theft is fair. Woe to those who call good evil and evil good. But what was the bit that he said? It's quite funny that it's not funny. It's not funny, but it's just so funny how brazen they're being about it. It's not, what was the quote? It's not always pleasant when people are moved involuntarily from their homes or required to sell their land. You got to think, with a lot of these radical left-wing politicians, right? Not only that, go back thousands, well, say hundreds of years, you know. We didn't seem to have so much of this problem back then. Without all of this massive state infrastructure, the same way that we're seeing it now, this nanny state that we had, we didn't, at least as far as I'm aware, we had a lot of problems. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying things were better in history. You know, you had young people, you know, much higher infant mortality rate. You had people dying of dysentery and all of these things, right? For the most part, though, we didn't seem to have this problem. So again, maybe the solution, when every time we've allowed more government, these problems have gotten worse. Maybe, just maybe, the solution is more government. Let's just put that on the back burner. Keep that in the back of our mind for a while. Maybe the solutions aren't always more government. But I love that. It's not always pleasant when people are moved involuntarily from their homes or required to sell their land. With a lot of these radical left-wing politicians, I wonder if then you were to then use this same logic and say that somewhere about Gaza, it's a hot topic at the moment, right? Let's say that about Gaza. Let's just say we're going to do that to all of the Palestinians, right? Oh, it's not always pleasant when people are moved involuntarily from their homes or required to sell their land. They would most likely recoil in abject horror that you would suggest that notion. But of course, because it's Indigenous Irish people in Ireland and they have a lighter skin tone, which has now made them enemies of the people, enemies of the whole world, well, anything can be done to them. You can't do any injustice to them because no injustice could be done to them because they're always oppressors no matter what the situation is. So it's not always pleasant when people are moved involuntarily from their homes or required to sell their land. It wasn't pleasant when Stalin done it. It wasn't pleasant when Lenin done it. It wasn't pleasant when Mao done it. It wasn't pleasant when the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia done it. It wasn't pleasant when anyone has done it. But when you have one side, these politicians here, it highlights the gross incongruity, which naturally is a consequence of the evil that they've allowed to be festered in their brain. It's okay when they do it, but if you were to suggest that, oh, okay, well, it's okay when it happens to these people as well, they'd reject it. They'd be in abject horror. What makes you wonder, what are they trying to do here? What are they trying to do here? Well, not directly in this country, not directly in Ireland, not directly in the UK. There was a recent Democrat representative in America by the name of Yvette Clarke that just literally, I don't even think, because a lot of these people, they're not the most intelligent people, literally just said the quiet part out loud, where she said, quote, "I need more migrants in my district for redistricting purposes." That's what she said. So she can redistribute them so that they can be, for lack of a better term, gerrymandered, I suppose. Or the gerrymandering is when you mess with the borders for voting and stuff like that. And they're literally saying they want to overthrow democracy, overthrow the democratic right and vote of the people that live in these places by just ferrying in more people that then they can put into these districts that will outvote them. This is exactly what I've been saying. This is the exact purpose of the Nation of Sanctuary plan. This is the exact purpose of everything that's going on in Ireland and all of our nations at the moment. This is what's being pushed through by the EU bureaucracy as well, the tyrannical organization known as the EU. All coming down from the UN and the globalist organizations, right? But literally saying, you have Yvette Clarke here, a Democrat in New York, saying, I need more migrants in my district for redistricting purposes. Don't you ever tell me that these people have your best interests at heart ever again. Don't you ever tell me that these people care about democracy ever again, when they're literally trying to ferry people in because they want to overthrow people's democratic vote.
And from Brooklyn, New York, we have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here. And from Brooklyn, New York.
There it is. Allow me to play it for you one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just find the timestamp a moment. Let me play that for you one more time, just in case you didn't hear.
No room in the inn. I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And
so there you go. Literally. The only thing is here, Yvette Clarke is very likely not intelligent enough to realize what she has just said. Very likely not intelligent enough to realize what she has just said. But also, you have to think of this in two ways. You have to think of this, are they too stupid to realize what they've just said? Or do they not care about hiding it anymore? And if they don't care about hiding it anymore, that can mean one of two things. It either means they know that their reign is at an end and they're trying to do everything that they can, cats out of the bag, everything, throwing every toy out the pram just to try and get anything, like the devil does, right? Like the devil does when he knows his reign's going to come to an end. He's going to try and get as many souls to come down to hell and be miserable with him as possible. So he's going to use every single little trick possible. I mean, no stage, gentlemen, the times have changed. The last 5 years, the times have seriously changed. You can't really describe it necessarily, but you can feel it. Something is going on. that is outside of us and outside of the material, I think, anyway. So it's either, again, they're that close to losing it so that they don't care about putting the mask on anymore, or their plan is that close to completion that they don't need to hide it anymore, and it's like game, set, match, done, and that's a scary scenario. I don't think it's that one. I think we've potentially got precious few opportunities to save what's coming, like as in like to save our societies from what is coming. But to do that, it's going to take something more than us. Put it that way. It's going to take something more than us. And this is the thing, and a lot of people on both sides tend to reject this kind of thing. They call it Christianity Sky Daddy and all stuff like that. They call God Sky Daddy, all of these things. But I'm like, with the conflict that's coming, with how these things can go and how they have done in the past, be like, regardless of how you feel about it, it's possibly worth, and regardless of if you feel we're going to win it or lose it or whatever, it's probably you worth, even just from a pragmatic perspective, even though, again, this should not be really the sole thing you start looking into faith and stuff like that for. But let's just say we do end up in like a civil conflict or whatever, or we do end up having to literally go to bat to defend our communities and things do get violent. Well, if we lose and we lose our lives as a result, well, you then have Pascal's wager to contend with, that if there is no God, there is no Jesus, whatever, there's no heaven, no hell, no other stuff, no harm, no foul, nothing to worry about. But if you're wrong and you didn't do certain things, then you do have some problems to contend with. So again, you have to weigh that up. You have to weigh that up and decide that if we were to lose, would you be willing to take Pascal's wager, so to speak? I don't think it's a gamble that anybody should take, personally. But if we are going to go to conflict, and you see this all throughout the early books of the Old Testament, for example, you see this, I believe there's a couple of battles in Deuteronomy or possibly Numbers. I think it starts off mainly in Numbers that a lot of these battles start. And what you tend to find is that when the Israelites, for example, going through having these battles with all of these other communities, it's God that decides the day. It's God that decides the day. See, the God is going to deliver your enemies into your hands, or he's going to deliver you into their hands. I believe one of the phrases was he's going to send you up one way and scatter you 7 ways. Or again, if you're in God's hand and he is at your back, you will go up one way and you will scatter them 7 ways, right? I believe that's the term that's used in scripture. Can't remember if that's the exact translation though. So again, if we are going to be seeing more and more deterioration, and we are going to be seeing potentially us having our own battles with our own government, because you can't necessarily take this lying down if the government decides it wants to seize your house, because where are you going to go? You've got nowhere else to go. It's kind of a thing that in some ways we have in common with, the Jews in modern day Israel, to be somewhat honest, right? Regardless of how you feel about that conflict, there's not many places really that they can go. I think that's what was their female prime minister's name? I can't remember, but said that, look, the one thing we do have is that we have nowhere else to go. So we're going to do our best to ensure our survival at all costs. In many ways, that's the case with us in this country as well. We have nowhere else to go. We're an island that's been invaded. We have no second home. We have no second citizenship for the most part. Some people are going to potentially hold second citizenship somewhere maybe, and they can flee. But a lot of us, like me, for example, we have nowhere else to go. And our home is our castle. So we need to be prepared to defend it. You're going to be prepared to defend it. You want God to be at your back. You want God to be at your back. So that even if, for example, you do end up losing your life, well, you don't want to be on the wrong end of that wager afterwards.